There are 10 aircraft sitting on ramps right now that cost less than a used pickup truck, and the mechanics who fix planes for a living are the ones writing the checks. MOSAIC rules, unleaded fuel pressure, and bonus depreciation are quietly reshaping what is worth owning, and the market has not caught up. So what do the people who actually know what brakes choose to fly? We ranked 10 sleepers by the gap between engineering merit and market price, from budget two-seaters to a controversial piston twin. Number 10 is an all-metal gem hiding in plain sight. In 10th place, the Luscombe 8 series lands as the best-kept secret in the two-seater world under $25,000. Mechanics know what most buyers miss. This is a heavy gauge, all-metal airframe built when aluminum was cheap and engineers were allergic to shortcuts. For around $20,000 to $25,000, you get skins and spars that laugh off hanger rash and outlast the fabric and tube nostalgia crowd. The cockpit is tight, no getting around that, but the simplicity underneath keeps shop hours low and logbooks clean. It has a fixed pitch Lycoming or Continental up front, no hydraulic headaches, and every system is laid out for easy access. Wing attach fittings and spar webs are the only real checkpoints, and even those are routine for any A and P who has done a few sheet metal patches. Parts? Owner groups keep a steady pipeline, and most repairs are just standard aluminum work, no proprietary nonsense. The market ignores the Luscombe because it is not a brand name in the modern sense, but the airframe does not care who signs the CEO's paycheck. Mechanics buy these for one reason. You can fly it for a decade and still spend less in the shop than you would on a single annual inspection for a prestige badge. That is why, in the real world, this is where the smart money starts, because of the value. Number 9, the Cessna 175 Skylark is the airplane the market loves to snub for all the wrong reasons. Here's the dirty secret. Under that familiar Cessna skin sits a 175 horsepower GO300 geared engine that scares off pilots who have never cracked a gearbox open. That fear is mostly psychological. The real story is that the GO300 only gets cranky when you treat it like a direct drive O300. Run it at low RPM and you will cook the gears, sure, but keep it spinning at the factory recommended 3,200 and it will outlive the average owner. Mechanics know the checklist by heart. Prop governor logs, gearbox lash, and compression patterns tell you everything you need to know. The airframe itself is pure 172 DNA, right down to the load ratings and metalwork, but you will pocket $2 to $3 grand over a same year 172 just for accepting the GO300's reputation hit. That's not a bug, that's a bargain. Most shops can spot a tired gearbox before you even pull the cowl, and the rest is just routine Cessna maintenance. For those who buy with a wrench, not a rumor, the 175 is the best kept secret in the four-seat trainer world. 8th place, the Swift GC-1B is the kind of airplane that makes mechanics smirk when they see it lumped in with trainers. For $30,000 to $50,000, you get a sliding canopy, an all-metal airframe, and here is the kicker: retractable gear that actually works if you keep up with the actuator. ADS, and do not ignore the gear up warning horn. Everyone else shops for Cherokees or Cessna 150s, but the Swift gives you 140 knots on a good day. That is a speed premium. Nothing else in this price band can touch. The market treats it like a museum piece, but the Swift Museum Foundation keeps parts alive, canopy rails, gear bushings, even those oddball trim cables. You'll want to check for skin corrosion around the belly and keep an eye on canopy track wear, but the bones are solid if you know where to look. Most pilots see a quirky two-seater. Mechanics see a sleeper that outpaces anything else for the dollar. That is why the smart money goes where the real support is, and why the GC-1B is a rocket hiding in plain sight. Number 7, the Beechcraft Sundowner C-23 is where mechanics quietly grin while the rest of the market yawns. For $30,000 to $50,000, you are looking at a 180 horsepower Lycoming engine up front, a cruise speed around 112 knots. And here is the kicker, the widest cabin you will find in its class. Most buyers walk away because it is not fast, but that conservative cruise is exactly what preserves the airframe. The Sundowner's bones are all Beechcraft. Thick gauge metal, overbuilt door sills, and a finish that shrugs off decades of ramp rash. Mechanics love these because you can actually see the Beechcraft structural standards in every control run and every rivet line. The useful load is near 800 pounds, so you are not choosing between fuel and friends. Sure, you will want to check for door sill corrosion and tension in the control runs, but those are straightforward, no surprises, no hidden headaches. The slow airspeed means less stress on the wings and longer life for everything that matters. The only reason these are not priced like Cherokees is because pilots chase speed, not longevity. But the Sundowner's comfort and durability are hiding in plain sight, and the market still has not caught on. Mechanics buy them for one reason: they last, and you get Beechcraft quality for Cessna money. That is the real secret in the budget tier. Number 6. The Cessna 170B is the tailwheel sleeper that just got a regulatory tailwind the market has not priced in. For years, the 170B was a backcountry darling, rugged, honest, and ignored by spreadsheet pilots who chased nose wheels and glass panels. But MOSAIC changed the game. With the FAA's new rule, any legacy airframe with a clean stall speed under 59 knots is fair game for sport pilot privileges. The 170B stalls at 43 knots, no mods, no paperwork tricks, so it slides right under the new bar. Suddenly, a 4-seat, all-metal classic with real utility is open to pilots who used to be locked out by medicals and weight limits. Now the numbers. About 5,000 of these rolled off the line, and the market band sits between $40,000 and $75,000, depending on logs and metalwork. That is a fraction of what you would pay for a new light sport aircraft with half the capability. The engineering is pure Cessna. Fowler flaps that drop to 40 degrees, giving you short field performance and a stall envelope that is almost comical by modern standards. Mechanics check 3 things: flap track wear, tailwheel spring fatigue, and longeron integrity, and then you are good for another decade of landings on whatever patch of grass or gravel you call a runway. Here is the kicker. As MOSAIC opens the buyer pool, these airframes are poised for a valuation jump. The market is still asleep, but mechanics are already buying ahead of the curve. The 170B is not just a nostalgia trip, it is a regulatory loophole on wheels, and it is about to get crowded. That is what happens when policy finally catches up with good engineering. Number 5. The Mooney M20C. Mark 21 is where the numbers start to embarrass the hype machines. Here is the reality: 147 knots true on 10 gallons per hour, and you do not need a degree in avionics to keep it running. That is a real-world 15 miles per gallon at cruise, in an airframe you can buy for $65,000 to $115,000, less if you are patient and know how to read a logbook. The secret sauce is Mooney's laminar flow wing, which slices drag without piling on maintenance headaches. But the real mechanic's grin comes from the Johnson bar manual gear: no pumps, no hydraulics, just a direct mechanical linkage you can check with a flashlight and a wrist. Less to break, less to leak, and the actuation wear is obvious long before it turns into a problem. Every M20C has a steel roll cage cabin, Mooney's answer to the what-if scenario, and the useful load sits around 800 pounds, so you are not rationing fuel or leaving tools behind. The 0360 up front is as honest as they come: 4 cylinders, carbureted, and parts are everywhere. The only real inspection headaches are the wing skin rivet lines and making sure the steel cage has not seen a gear-up landing, but those are one-and-done checks, not lurking time bombs. The M20C is not flashy, and the market keeps chasing faster, fancier Mooneys. But the mechanics who actually pay the bills know the Mark 21 is the best miles per gallon deal in the sky. The market is asleep at the wheel again, and that is exactly why the smart money is quietly buying these up before the rest of the world catches on. Number 4. The Grumman AA5B Tiger is where clever mechanics bet on engineering over reputation. The bonded wing design is the Tiger's calling card. No rivet rows, just a seamless skin that slices drag and shrugs off the corrosion that eats at older single-engine planes. That means less time with a rivet gun and more time flying. At cruise, you are looking at 139 knots on just 9 gallons an hour, a real-world number that puts most four-seaters that claim to be fast to shame for fuel cost. Here is the kicker. In the last 100 accidents, only 6 involved a loss of control on the runway, and almost none were tied to fuel system faults. That is not luck. It is the result of Grumman's conservative fuel plumbing and simple cable routing, no hydraulic circus, no hidden traps. The market still prices these between $85,000 and $150,000, a band that has not caught up to the fact that the Tiger's bonded wings resist the joint corrosion that plagues Cessnas and Pipers in the same age bracket. Mechanics know to check the wing bond splices every annual inspection, but those inspections are straightforward, no black magic, just a clean visual and a tap test. Aftermarket support is strong. Excel Air and Fletcher have you covered for every panel, bushing, and cable you will ever need. The Tiger is not a status symbol, but the airframe does not care who signs the CEO's paycheck. It is a low-drag, low-fuss machine that delivers modern speed and honest handling, and the smart money is buying before the rest of the world figures out what bonded structure really means for long-term value. Coming to the top 3, the Maule MXT-7 is the SATOL workhorse that keeps flying under the radar while the rest of the market chases glass panels and speed numbers. Mechanics look at a Maule and see a tool, not a toy. 180 horsepower up front, a useful load of 950 pounds, and a takeoff roll that is routinely under 500 feet if you know how to work the flaps. That is not brochure talk. That is utility. You can measure with a tape on any grass strip in America. Where the Maule really pulls ahead is parts and support. The factory is still alive and kicking in Georgia, building new airframes and stocking everything from gear leg bushings to flap hinges. That is a living supply chain, not a scavenger hunt through eBay or salvage yards. You want a nose gear bushing? Call the factory. Flap hinge worn out? They will ship you the part and give you the install procedure straight from the line. Mechanics love these because the engineering is honest. No bonded skins, no hidden corrosion traps, just steel tubes and sheet aluminum you can inspect and repair with standard shop tools. The only shop gripes are the usual suspects, gear leg bushings and flap hinge loads, both of which are routine checks, not wallet grenades. Factory parts pricing is sane, and the support does not dry up when the CEO changes. For $75,000 to $85,000, you get an airplane that outhauls, outlasts, and outsupports anything else in the sub-$100,000 bush utility game. The market yawns because it is not fast or flashy, but the mechanics who actually keep these flying know the real value. You do not need anyone's permission to fly, and you do not need to beg for parts. That is why the MXT-7 is the sleeper utility pick, built for work, not for show. Number 2, the Piper Comanche 250 is the kind of airplane mechanics quietly buy while everyone else is still chasing brand names. Start with the bones. Piper built these with factory zinc chromate primer throughout the structure, so corrosion. The silent killer of old metal airplanes just does not get the same foothold here. You will find Comanches that have sat in damp hangars for a decade and still pass a wing attach inspection with nothing more than a few scuffed screws. That is not luck, that is chemical insurance baked in at the factory. The numbers do not lie. 1,382 are still on the FAA registry, and you can buy one for $70,000 to $160,000 depending on panel and logbooks. For that money, you get a real 157-knot cruise on 13 gallons an hour, not brochure numbers, but what you will see with a GPS and a fuel totalizer. The useful load is where it embarrasses the competition, 1,200 pounds, which means you can fill the tanks, bring 3 adults, and still have room for tools or luggage. Most so-called fast singles force you to choose between fuel, payload, or speed. The Comanche gives you all 3. Mechanics love the 0540 up front, not just for the power, but because it is already on the shortlist for unleaded fuel supplemental type certificates. That is future-proofing your investment while the market is still pricing in leaded-only headaches. The only real pre-buy ritual is a thorough wing attach and spar inspection, but if you know where to look, it is a one-afternoon job with a mirror and a borescope. Here is the kicker for anyone buying with a spreadsheet. The Comanche 250 is 100% bonus depreciation eligible for business use under the current tax code. That means you can write off the entire purchase price in year 1 if you log enough business hours. The market still thinks these are old iron, but mechanics know better. For speed, load, and long-term support, nothing else in this price range comes close. There is a reason the Comanche was the speed king of its era, and why the smart money is quietly snapping them up before the accountants catch on. And finally, in first place, the Ted Smith Aerostar 600 is the plane that makes the whole used market look like it is napping at the wheel. Here is the headline: you can buy the fastest certified piston twin in the world for less than a loaded F-150. That is not hyperbole. Clean Aerostar 600s are trading between $120,000 and $180,000, sometimes less if you are quick on the draw. For that, you get 210 knots at cruise, twin Lycoming IO 540s, and a metal airframe that shrugs off the hours like it was built for a different era. Fuel burn, plan on 34 gallons per hour at speed. Sure, it is thirsty, but you are covering ground like a regional jet for a fraction of the buy-in. Now, the elephant in the room: accident rates. The Aerostars logbook reads 12.9 accidents per 100,000 hours, more than double the Beech Baron, which is 4.9. But dig into the root cause, and it is not the airplane, it is the transition. This is a machine that punishes the untrained and rewards the prepared. Most incidents trace straight to pilots jumping up from slower singles or light twins without the right checkout, not to design flaws. Mechanics know the real culprit: botched engine management, mishandled VMC, and skipped recurrent training. The airframe itself is overbuilt, the systems are straightforward, and the prop governors, while not cheap to overhaul, are no worse than what you will find on any other big twin. Plan for a $3,500 governor job every 1,500 hours, and you are set. Here is why the smart money is quietly stacking Aerostars in their hangars. The speed per dollar math is unbeatable. Nothing else gives you 210 knots for a six-figure price tag, and with the 2026 bonus depreciation rules, you can write off the whole thing if you log enough business hours. That is a tax shield the market still has not priced in. The Aerostar is not for the casual flyer or the status chaser, it is for the mechanic who wants the most airplane per dollar and has the discipline to respect the numbers. The market shies away because of old stories and insurance checklists, but the airframe does not care who signs the CEO's paycheck. Underneath the fear and the rumors, you will find the best speed bargain in aviation. That is why, when it comes to real engineering return on investment, the Aerostar 600 is the one the rest of the market is still too timid to touch. Across all 10 airframes, one thing stands out. The market chases logos, but mechanics chase longevity. These sleeper planes prove that engineering, not branding, is what survives decades of hard use and shifting regulations. In aviation, the smartest money ignores hype and listens to the rivets. You don't need their permission to fly, just the right machine. Which sleeper would you trust with your ticket? Let's hear it below.